With that, let's welcome in NFL on CBS analyst Charles Davis to help us make sense of this matchup. Charles, Ron Rivera blamed the quarterback when asked why the Commanders only have one win compared to the rest of the division that has at least four. That can't feel good for Carson Wentz. He has apologized since for this, but what do you make of those statements?
Katie, Ron Rivera has been around this league long enough to know that we, as media members, love a great quote. And you and I both know that if you take the full transcript of what Ron said, there's a lot of things that made sense in there when we gives it context. But he also is smart enough to know that as soon as he said quarterback, boom, that's where we chopped it. We're done. Nothing else needs to be said because that's our headline. That's where it goes. Because what he said after that was continuity at quarterback. Look at the other teams in our division. Dallas has had Dak Prescott up until this season. That's when they've had their most success, right? Then he was talking about Philadelphia. Does it look a bit like they're getting their guy in Jalen Hurts? All right. So if you go through the division, that's what he's talking about. Since he's been at Washington, it's been a revolving door at the quarterback position. You can't build a team that way. But as soon as he just says quarterback, well, guess what? That means we're going right back to Carson Wentz, right back to all the offseason issues, right back to Carson Wentz's career. And that's why Ron Rivera had to apologize today. I think that it won't linger. But guess what? Every time something goes wrong, we'll resurrect that quote because it's a money shot, Katie.
Yeah, you got to hope that it resurrects Carson Wentz a little bit. So let's take a look at his numbers. He has 10 touchdowns, which not for nothing. That's the most, that is the most passing touchdowns in any quarterback for the NFC East. But he also has 6 interceptions and 7 turnovers. How can Carson Wentz turn things around on Thursday night?
Well, first things first, yes, he and Ron Rivera had the meeting. Ron Rivera's apologized to the entire team. Carson Wentz has given a great statement about, hey, I'm okay and everything's good and what coach did was fantastic. But the best part now for them, the best thing they can do is give him a little sugar on top. Find ways to get him going early, all right? They need him playing well in this ball game, and the best way to do that, let him spread the ball around. Let him use his legs a little bit quarterback run game. Move him around in and out of the pocket to find some easy throws and some good sight lines because he's down a few big targets in this game. His tight end is hurt. He lost his #1 draft pick receiver. He's not going to play in this one. So find a way to get Terry McLaurin, who is their top receiver, and Carson Wentz going really early in this game. The second thing I think they've got to do is on defense, Katie. That defensive line is full of first-round draft picks, even with Chase Young out. Those guys have to play well up front because the Bears are going to try and test them in the run game. And then they've got to get after Carson Wentz and just get after Justin Fields and harass the heck out of him because you can't allow Justin Fields to try and get right now, okay? He's been struggling himself. They need to make sure they keep that struggle going. I'm going to give you a bonus key for this game. Brian Robinson, we all know about what happened with him getting shot during the preseason through no fault of his own. I mean, when we first heard the report, we thought that was going to be a season ender. Guess what? He's back at the practice field. He's back on the team. Maybe you give him a few opportunities early, and if he plays well, how about the emotional lift that team gets, as well as Brian Robinson announcing he's back playing football? That could be a big lift for that ball club.
Well, Charles, if you say something like, don't let Justin Fields get right, well, if you look at Carson Wentz, and maybe he has a lot to be desired, Justin Fields might as well say, hold my beer, because the Bears have the league's worst pass offense with only 88 passing attempts through 5 games. Between Montgomery and Fields, they have been doing well on the running game and running the ball. However, defending the run, that might be the only thing that Washington has been good at this year. So how did the Bears create balance on offense against the Commanders?
Well, Katie, it certainly sounds like we're not even going to go to this ball game because the Bears are struggling so much, and it's understandable. I worked the Carolina Panthers game last week. The only quarterback who was rated ahead of Justin Fields was Baker Mayfield going into that ball game in terms of throwing percentage. So you're exactly right about where they are. But manufacture some throws and make it easy for him somehow. Give him something that gets him into the 60th percentile throwing the football. Right now he's in the low 50s. So can you swing it out to the backs a little bit? Hit some check downs to Cole Kmet, the tight end. Find some of those hitch passes to Darnell Mooney and let him take it the distance somehow, make someone miss. Yeah, maybe you get a big play like they had with Dante Pettis in the season opener on a broken coverage, take advantage of it. But consistency in that, share the running load if Montgomery's able to go with Khalil Herbert, who's played well in his stead, and just find a way to get him comfortable. And oh yeah, Justin Fields is a big strapping lad. let him run the football too, because that can hurt some people that way. A little bit of quarterback run game. And then on defense, they've got to get some takeaways. They've got to help out this offense. They've got to get them short fields. They've got to give them extra possessions. They have to do all of that. And I'm looking at their safety duo. I love Jaquan Brisker coming out of Penn State. That rookie has played awfully well, and he will hit you no matter what. As soon as he comes off the bus, he's a candidate to tackle you. And Eddie Jackson, he's a takeaway machine. That's how he made his bones early in his time in the league. A roving center field type of a free safety. He goes where the football goes, and when he takes it away, he heads in the other direction. They can create those extra opportunities for Justin Fields in that offense. Shorter fields, extra possessions. Give them a chance. Maybe Chicago can get something done on Thursday night.
Oh, wouldn't that be lovely? All right, Charles, you've given us the keys to win. The only question now is, which team are you letting drive your car? Now, that's hypothetical. I would not have any of these teams drive your car. But somebody's got to win this game, Charles. Who are you taking?
Well, I'm telling you, Katie, I lean towards Washington in a big way after all the emotional stuff that had happened earlier in the week. Carson Wentz bouncing back and showing that he's their quarterback in D.C. in the Capitol. But I really do like Chicago better. I like what Matt Eberflus is doing so far with that ball club. The roster still needs work, still needs extra talent, but they're playing awfully hard for him, especially on the defensive side of the ball. And I think Justin Fields has played better in the last couple of ball games, even though he hasn't had his breakout yet. I like Chicago at home in this game. I like Justin Fields to have a better game than he's had here in the early going in this season. I do like the Bears, especially on the defensive side of the ball, to find a way to win this game against Washington, which is a little bit depleted on offense.
Yeah, they got a lot of injuries going on there. Okay, Charles Davis, thank you so much for your time. We'll see you next time. Have a good one.
All right, take care, Katie.
And the percentage of wagers on the spread, well, look, the people agree with Charles here. 66% of the public back in Chicago. Time now to welcome in Sportsline betting analysts Emory Hunt and Larry Hartstein. Commanders at Bears. Gentlemen, I'm sure you've heard the phrase before, only a face a mother could love. Well, this can be applied to this game. This is a matchup that only sports bettors will love. It's not the sexiest game, but there's still a ton of value. Let's start with this side. The line is pick'em. Over-under currently sits at 38. Emory, who are you picking?
I'm rolling with Chicago, man. I just like the fact that they've trended in the right direction the last couple of weeks. You saw last week, Emir Smith-Marset fumbled the football, but it was the effort that you couldn't question. He made that one guy miss, tried to break a tackle, and unfortunately got stripped. We saw that defense show up big against Minnesota, turned the ball over, got that extra possession for Chicago. Effort. You see receivers laying out for receptions. Effort. Justin Fields fighting for touchdown runs. He had a long touchdown run that was called back because of a receiver was blocking. That's effort. So they're losing the game because of talent, but not because of effort. On the flip side, you see Washington losing games for a myriad of reasons. And because of that, because they're trending the other way, I'm going to go with Chicago in this game. I like the Bears to win.
Emory, I hate the Commanders. I have not backed them once this entire season, and yet I have to back them on Thursday Night Football. You know, they've forced one turnover in 5 games. No other team has forced fewer than 3 turnovers. They have forced 1 fumble that they haven't recovered, and they've gotten 1 interception. That's it. And this defense is pretty solid against the run. They held Derrick Henry to 3.6 yards a carry. They held Zeke and Pollard to 2.1 yards a carry last week. And I think the big move was what happened in the secondary. William Jackson, their most expensive player, $14 million a year, got benched last week, and as soon as he went out and they put in Rashad Wildgoose, the second-year guy from Wisconsin, that defense allowed only 3.6 yards a play. William Jackson has been so bad, and he's been on the field because he's so highly paid, but he was giving up 150 passer rating. So I know Justin Fields exploded for 208 passing yards, you know, his high for the season, and I know there's a lot of talk that he took a step in the right direction, but he's had a lot of turnover-worthy plays. In fact, the highest rate of turnover-worthy plays. That's why they don't have him drop back so much. I think the Commanders finally get a couple of turnovers, and they win in Chicago.
All right. Well, with dismal offensive output from both teams mixed with the lowest total of the week, my head goes towards props that lean more on the running game or field goal attempts, possibly an interception. Emory, what's a prop that you like for the Commanders?
Well, you talk about turnover-worthy plays, Larry. How about actual turnovers? That's Carson Wentz. You have a turnover in every game except one. Multiple interceptions in 2 games this season. So I saw this as probably one of the disrespectful props of the week. Go over 0.5 interceptions. He's throwing one. He's a turnover machine going up against an aggressive, active, and opportunistic defense that I just talked about turning the ball over. They're going to get one from Carson Wentz on Thursday night.
Emory, hard to believe that number is only minus 113 because, yeah, Wentz is a turnover machine with the 6 picks. But I think one guy that he targets a lot that he will not turn the ball over when throwing to is J.D. McKissic. This guy is actually a receiver playing running back. He runs a route 92% of the time. He lines out wide. He lines up in the slot. His catch prop sitting at 2.5. To me, that's disrespectful when he's averaging 4 or 5 catches. If you go back the last 11 games, he's averaging 5 catches a game. He's gone over this every single time. I know Brian Robinson's going to get the early down work and the running snaps, but J.D. McKissic over 2.5 to me is virtually a lock. I'll never say anything as a lock, but this one looks very good.
Yeah, he's got to follow it up with virtually, but I agree with you on that one. The Bears may have the worst passing offense in the league, but the Commanders have been torched by wideouts in their opening 5 games, including 6 passes of 40 or more yards. Larry, is there any value in taking a Bears receiving prop?
I don't think so because of the change in the secondary that I mentioned. When they finally got William Jackson out of the lineup, I think they're going to play a lot better. And I like David Montgomery to go under his rushing number. He had the blow-up game against the Packers that everybody saw on national TV, 122 yards. What about his other 3 games? 11, 20, and 26 yards. He's also dealt with knee and ankle injuries. And like we said, the Washington Commanders, for as bad as they are, they stopped the run. Held Zeke and Pollard to 2.1, held Derrick Henry to 3.6. So if the Bears get way, way up, yes, he could go over this, but I don't see him breaking off a lot of long runs. I'll go under 63.5.
Here's the difference, Larry. The one guy that controls the football every play is the quarterback. He's a mobile quarterback, which aids the run game, which is something Tennessee didn't have, which is something the other team didn't have that Washington was able to stop the run. I don't think they're going to stop Justin Fields from running for over 40.5 yards. To me, that's one play for Justin Fields. I feel like people underestimate how fast this dude is for 6'3", 230. He is a legit 4.3 runner. So I feel like within the course of a game, he's going to break a 20-yarder, and then later on in the second half, here comes another 30-yarder. He's going to go over this number. They're going to need his legs in order to beat that aggressive defensive front that you talked about in Washington.
The star of the playbook and the maestro, Emory. Larry, always a pleasure. Let's go ahead and take a second look at those bets. The line is pick'em, and our guys picked each side. In the prop market, Emory is betting on Wentz to throw a pick, while Larry is looking at Montgomery to go under on his rushing yards.
Do you want a sports network that delivers everything that matters about the game? The highlights, the picks, the instant analysis, no yelling, no fake debates, no politics. Hit the subscribe button and never miss a moment.